I'm going to kick this off. Good day. I'm JG Decker. I'm the Senior Associate for Resources and Events here at APAP. I use he, they pronouns. I am a fair-skinned person with brown hair, white glasses, a black shirt on a white, brown, and blue background for anybody that needs a visual description. I want to acknowledge that APAP is located in the United States Capitol, Washington, D.C., on the ancestral lands of the Piscataway, Anacostan, Pamunkey peoples who have stewarded this land throughout the generations. I also want to pay homage to and respect to the elders, both past and present, as well as the Nipmuc, Wampanoag, and Massachusetts people of the Shawmut, also known as Boston, Massachusetts, where I am today. Joining us today are Elizabeth and Karen from Purple. They will be our ASL interpreters. I want to encourage everyone to use the chat function if you have a question or anything. We'll have a Q&A at the end. You can ask your questions then, but we do want to keep it there. I do want to remind people to speak up, but also to step back if you're a person that likes a little too much airtime. Whether this is your first APAP or your 50th, everyone is welcome. Every question is welcome. I also want to remind everybody that here in the United States, we have a national test at 2:20 p.m. today on cell phones, radios, and televisions for a national test. We'll take a quick break right around then, but just be aware of that. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our President and CEO, Lisa Richards-Toney.
Thank you, JG. Good day, everyone. Great to see you. So glad you're here. For those of you who don't know me, we have lots of new folks in the room. Welcome. My name is Lisa Richards-Toney. I'm the President and CEO of APAP, and we're delighted to have you here to talk about all things exhibiting. So this conference, we're so excited. This is our second year in person since the pandemic, and all of you know what that means because we're talking about exhibiting. To have that booth, to have people come by, to have your meetings, to do what you need to do is cornerstone to your business. We get that and we want to support that. That's why we do conference. We do conference for other reasons as well. Learning, networking, building community. But today in specific, we're going to talk about how to make the best out of the exhibiting opportunity. Those of you who are new, welcome again. And I want to encourage you to please feel free and welcome to ask any question that you may have in the chat. You may direct it to any of my team members who you'll meet shortly. And we're also available after this opportunity to talk with any of you about issues that you may be having. This is a very important opportunity in our field. As we like to say, APAP is the last stop on the booking circle tour, if you will. A lot of you started some time ago, but maybe some of you on the West Coast at WA, and you've been moving through. And so the showcasing that will happen, the exhibiting that will happen, the convening that will happen is all very important as we get to January. We're expecting thousands of you all. Last year we had registration at 3,008, but we can increase that as well. So thank you for being here. And I just want to now turn it over to Krista Bradley, who is our Director of Programs and Resources. Krista?
Great. Thanks, Lisa. Welcome, everybody. We're so glad that you're here. As Lisa said, APAP NYC is one of the hallmarks of us being a community, and it's certainly critical to our work to support you as a member of the presenting, booking, and touring industry. And our goal is to ensure that this is a robust and thriving industry. And part of doing that year-round includes this 5-day conference that we hold in New York. So today we're going to be talking about exhibiting and just APAP NYC in general, just so you have a sense of what happens there, but then we'll go deep into the exhibiting conversation. So I want to turn it over to Neo Narner-Madison, our Director of Operations and Events, to walk us through the agenda, and then we'll get started. Neo?
Thank you, Krista, and hello, everyone. Next slide, please, JG. Thank you. Thank you. And as Krista mentioned, today we'll be starting off with an overview about what is APAP NYC, what happens at the conference in New York. We'll be talking about the EXPO Commons eligibility requirements and how to purchase space in the EXPO Commons. Then we'll hear from our experts and conference committee members about why exhibiting is important, best practices for advanced preparation, and on-site engagement at the conference. And that will be followed by Q&A, where we encourage everyone to share, to come on screen and ask any questions that you have. And we will wrap with next steps. And I will turn things back over to Krista. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks. Okay, so what is APAP NYC? We're going to boil it down to 3 bullets. It's the world's largest gathering of the performing arts, presenting, booking, and touring industry in New York City. It's also the annual members conference for our organization, APAP, and it takes place over 5 days, January 12th to the 16th at the New York Hilton mostly, but then it also takes place across New York City because we have various parts of what happens at APAP happening on site at the Hilton and across various venues across the New York. Next slide. So one way to think about APAP NYC is through a lens of 4 pillars. These are the kind of the 4 things that happen and the 4 ways that we really focus our energy. Community is the first one. We are there to be a community of this industry. It is a very prominent industry, and you are part of something larger than yourselves. And so that community building through a variety of different gatherings allows us and you to be a part of something greater and to get inspiration and learning from your colleagues. Commerce is a critical second piece to our 4 pillars of APAP NYC. This is an industry. This is where people also make a living and do business and connect with those who can help them bring their work to stages across the country and also help cover the costs of facilitating that work. And so commerce is critical to all of us, actually, that work in this field and that rely on this gathering to connect with others, build relationships, and ultimately have tours and engagements that happen. Learning is the third piece of our work. Learning is represented through professional development sessions that we hold at conference, learning sessions with peer-to-peer colleagues, as well as experts inside and outside of the field. And that happens typically in the morning and some roundtables in the afternoon. And then discovery is a 4th pillar, and value. This is about the ability to discover new colleagues, new works, new artists, new ways of working, new issues that are important to the ways that you manage your business. So we want to encourage that across all the activities that happen at APAP NYC. Next slide. Those 4 pillars can be best evidenced or most well evidenced through a couple of key areas and elements of what happens at conference. Community is often seen through networking and affinity groups. We hold special affinity groups that happen throughout the conference for people by their role in the field or their identity or by their interest. And there are lots of opportunities to network with your peers and colleagues and discover new ones. In terms of commerce, we have 3 floors of exhibit space in the EXPO Commons. You'll learn more about that today. And that's where a lot of commerce happens, but it doesn't always happen in the EXPO Commons. It happens in places like the bar and in the lobby and in other places. And we encourage that to happen in addition to the EXPO Commons, because we know people are trying to do a lot of meetings in a short amount of time. The third is professional development. I mentioned that earlier. That's where a lot of learning happens. And then discovery is evidenced in lots of ways, but primarily through showcases. We have over 1,000 showcases that happen at conference, at the Hilton, and across the city. And so those are kind of the 4 really big areas that make up the conference. But there are other highlighted events that happen. Up next is a fond and welcome event that happens on Friday, which is a curated pitch session of works that are ready to tour. We have a couple of other events like artist discovery sessions that are new this year. We'll be offering a couple of curated sessions to highlight works in process, as well as projects that are community or social practice based, so that people that want to connect with others can do that. We have our 5 minutes to shine, which is a wonderful way to highlight innovation in the field. And that's something that happens as part of our plenaries. And then this year, like many years, our conference will fall over the MLK holiday and the MLK Service Day. And we will be embracing that in lots of different ways by giving people an opportunity to share their path in this profession with emerging and new and pre-professional folks that are considering being a part of this industry. And then on Monday, we also have our APAP Honors Breakfast, which is new this year. It used to be a luncheon, now it's a breakfast. It's a way to really honor those who have served this field, who have exemplified the values in this field. And it's a wonderful way to both thank and validate who we are as an industry and all the people that have gone before us and what they do. So those are the elements that are part of APAP NYC. And I will now turn it over to Sue, to talk about who is eligible for APAP and who exhibits. Sue?
Hi, everybody. I'm Membership Director Sue Noseworthy. It's great to see all of you here. For those of you who are new, I probably have onboarded you or chatted with you over email, so hopefully I'll be able to see your faces very soon. I wanted to share a little bit about who APAP is for and who you'll meet when you get to the conference. APAP NYC attendees are performing arts professionals who are currently working in or those who aspire to work in the presenting, booking, and touring field. Attendees represent all genres and disciplines and come from all 50 states and approximately 31 countries. Obviously, that changes year to year, but we are thrilled to be the international booking and touring conference in this country. Approximately 47% of attendees are presenters. 13% are artists, 26% are agents and managers, and 14% are other. And that includes producers, consultants, vendors, students, academic departments, the breadth and depth of our entire field. So you will meet people from doing all kinds of work in our industry, which is another exciting element of our conference. Many of our attendees also, the presenters in attendance, many of them are not just presidents and CEOs and programming staff, but they will also bring marketing, development, communications, and operations staff with them. So many of our organizations also bring a variety of staff to our conference. Also, many of our organizations bring their boards of directors. So it's a great way for you to introduce your boards to the importance of our work and to all the great reasons that you work in this industry. Just a reminder that this is a members-only conference. So there are a variety of different membership types and registration types. So if you need help selecting something, if you're not a member yet, please feel free to reach out to myself or my colleague Keisha Shorter, and we'd be happy to help you with both conference registration types and also different membership types. I will put my email and the general membership email in the chat shortly, and I'll turn it over to Neo.
Thank you, Sue. So in the expo hall this year, as last year, we have one standard exhibit space size, which is 8 by 10. Each exhibitor can purchase up to 2 booths in the expo space. The booth rate is $7.95 per booth. We have booth badges again this year at $2.95 per badge. Booth badges are intended for booth staff, so colleagues that you have that will be working in the expo hall. The booth badge is considered a full registration. Booth badge attendees have access to the entire conference. This is not on the slide, but I just want to share. This year, we have a new artist rate, which is $2.25. So for showcasing the artists that may have not participated in the conference, and they're not booth staff, we do have an option as well. And these artists can be individual members to APAP or on your roster, but still eligible for the artist rate. Each exhibit comes with 3 booths, Each exhibitor can purchase up to 3 booth badges. If you have 2 booths, you can purchase a total of 7 booth badges. I want to remind everyone that as the primary purchaser of a booth, you are registered and you are not required to have a booth badge. This would be for anyone else working in your booth with you. And right now, I believe we have just under 60 booths available. I believe we have 3 floors of exhibit space. America's Hall 1 and 2 are sold out, but booth space remains available in the Rhinelander Hall of EXPO Commons. Okay. Things to know in the Expo Hall. Returning exhibitors will be aware. We have the same partner, GES, for our show decorating, and you must purchase any electrical needs through GES, as well as arrange furniture drop-offs in your booth, and they would be the team that you would discuss furniture in your booth if you don't want the standard Expo booth setup, which is 4 chairs and 2 tables. You can arrange for other rental furniture if you like, but GES would be your contact. GES does reach out to all confirmed exhibitors, providing the exhibitor kit, and through the digital exhibitor kit is how you can make those arrangements for on-site needs at the conference. Complimentary Wi-Fi is available in the Expo Hall for all exhibitors. Live performance is not permitted in the Expo Hall, and digital media must be played using headphones. There's a lot of noise in the exhibit hall, but we just want to make sure everyone has the time to conduct meetings as needed. There are freight elevators on each floor of the Expo Hall, and they must be used to do load-in of large items. Next slide, please, JG. And that's load-in begins on Friday, January 12th, and we have all day Friday to load in from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Saturday, we have load-in hours in the morning from 9 a.m. to noon. Monday loadout is January the 15th at 6 p.m. In the EXPO Commons business hours, we have hours 3 days during the conference: Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. On Saturday, we open at 1:30 in the afternoon. And then Sunday, and I'll pause. My alert is over. Is everyone else's alert over? Okay, great. Thank you. As noted, on Sunday in the Expo Hall, we have hours in the morning from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. During that time, you're not required to staff your booth, but the Expo Hall is open. And again, open from 1:30 to 6:30 p.m. on Sunday. On Monday, we have hours in the morning from 8 a.m. to 9:15. And during that time, you're not required to staff your booth. As a reminder, exhibitors are permitted to enter the Expo Hall 15 minutes prior to the Expo Hall opening daily. Thank you. And next, I'm going to turn things back over to Krista.
Thanks, Neo. So we are so thrilled to have colleagues in the field sharing their time and experience with all of us. And so we're going to hear from them. The 4 folks here: Elizabeth Auer, who's one of our 2024 conference committee members. She's also the executive director of arts engagement and cultural resources at Appalachian State University. Laurel Kanan is artist manager with Siegel Artist Management. Leah Keith is creative producer and agent with Rhythm of the Arts. And Sarah Saltwick is our 2024 conference co-chair and works as an agent and manager at Holden Arts. Welcome, everybody. So we want to take the opportunity to ask you a couple of questions and hear the why behind why you exhibit, or why you incorporate the exhibit hall and Expo Commons into your schedule and your way that you plan for your APAP. And then how do you use it in your work? So we have some agents, we have managers, we have presenters and producers. So it's a wonderful way to hear how different people approach that. Who would like to start? Sarah, would you like to start? Oh,
Sarah, I
Sorry.
think you're on mute.
Sorry. I can't, can you guys see me either?
I
I
can't.
can see you.
Yeah.
I can't see myself, but that's fine. I know what I look like. So I'm Sarah Saltwick. I'm one of the co-chairs of the conference and then one of the co-directors at Holden and Arts Associates. And Holden and Arts as an organization has been going to APAP probably for over 30 years. And this will personally be maybe my 15th or so APAP. I love having a booth. It really feels like it's my little home. I feel really secure when I'm there. I think, I know what to do. I have a lot of scheduled meetings and then also, meeting people who walk up, who see something in our marketing images that catches their eye. So we have a focus on youth and family work. So we have production photos, but then we'll also have books that our work is based off of. This year, we just invested in a tablecloth to create sort of a different aesthetic. We have gone to just lookbooks where we have one book that has a page on all of our artists. We used to do individual brochures, but over the last couple of years have done this and are really liking it. And this also serves as a place for presenters to take notes. So the pages are such so that you can write directly in it. They're not too glossy. It just, for me, having a booth, having this focused time is one of the biggest priorities in the conference. So I work on scheduling my meetings first, and then even a couple of days before going to New York, I look through my list and think about, okay, what do I want to talk about with each person? So much of APAP happens on the fly where there's a lot of discovery and learning, but these meetings, I feel like I can really plan for and take that time to focus in. And sometimes I'm talking to a person pretty early in their cycle, especially with youth and family work. Some people fill that in after they've settled their main stage, after they've got their Broadway dates. So sometimes that's the beginning of a conversation. And other folks, we're confirming dates, we're confirming details, and we're starting to talk about the next season. So there's a range of conversations that happen inside those meetings. And I love having that spot to be with our materials, to talk to people face to face, and to really be prepared.
Thank you, Sarah. Laurel, do you want to go next?
Hi, my name is Laurel Cannon. I'm with Siegel Artist Management, and I was a presenter for 10 years before I came to the agency side of the business, and I'm now starting my 24th year in the industry, which is really hard to believe. We are also Siegel is also a very long time attendee of the conference, in excess of 30 plus years. Like Sarah, I'm glad she said that. I like to think of our booth as kind of our mini office gathering space. I love to meet with people at APAP, especially our buyers that I only see once a year, people that I've built relationships with and have become friends with. This might be the only opportunity that we have to sit down and really look at programming. I like to hear and listen to what they might be looking for or the way that their programming is taking shape. We also encourage our artists that are showcasing at APAP to get an artist pass and come into the hall the day after their showcase. It gives the presenters that may attend their showcase a really nice opportunity to ask the artist questions about their show or just get to know them better. We also use we use a brochure instead of a lot of one sheets. This is much easier for us in our pre-planning at the start of the season. People can take notes, write information. This usually goes out in August. We mail to everyone, so they're pretty familiar with our work by the time they get to APAP. We also do a roster card that has our pricing on it. So a lot people like to take notes on this sheet as well. Getting ready for APAP, I do my homework. I take the attendee list. My territory is primarily the Midwest and Upper Midwest. So I really delve in and take a look at websites of my presenters to see what they're bringing, what they've brought. By the time we get to APAP, I have a pretty good idea what they're looking for as well. But for me, and as Sarah said, the key is doing the homework in advance of getting to New York.
Thanks, Laurel. Yeah. Can you go
Yes, sure. So my name is Leah Keith, and I'm the owner of my own agency, Rhythm of the Arts, and we're an agency and a producing house. So some of our artists, we have 6 projects, and some of our artists, we produce the projects as well, and some of them we're agents for. And it's essentially just me. So like both Laurel and Sarah said, you know, so much of APAP is the preparation that goes in prior to actually getting to New York City in January. It's thinking through not only, you know, it's doing the homework with your artists. What are they going to be presenting? You know, how do they want to be presented to presenters? And working with them on the marketing. I also do a brochure like Laurel and Sarah. It's an opportunity for presenters to see what these artists look like in a brochure and then subsequently in their brochure, hopefully. And it is about doing that homework of who you want to be meeting with. APAP can be very overwhelming. My agency is new. I think we're only 2.5 years old, but this will probably be maybe my 10th APAP as an agent. And so since my agency is only 2 years old and I am covering the entire country, I'm not a regional agent like Laurel and Sarah. And there are only so many hours in a day. I have to be really judicious with my time and who I'm meeting with and know why I'm meeting with them. So I too set up my meetings. A lot of it, again, it's that preparation, phone calls with folks beforehand, and having that variety of conversations of, okay, are we wrapping up a booking that we've had conversations about since, you know, August? And not only August, I mean, some bookings, this really is a long game. I know you all have probably heard other folks say that. There are bookings that maybe I've had conversations for, you know, 5 years, 6 years about, and then that artist is now coming to a venue. So really having the booth, and I love that, Laurel, it's like your office away from your office, you know, it's really home base. And it's like, I know that, okay, all of my materials are there. If I miss something or if I'm going to another meeting, I can just duck into my booth and grab it. And it really is like my space that then I can share with everyone else.
Awesome. So I'm hearing strategy and preparation and research and as just, you know, the things that you all have talked about. And it's been great to hear about the variety of different folks who are using Expo booths to conduct business. And now it's great to have one of our colleagues in the presenting field to talk a little bit about how they use the expo hall and how they plan with interacting with exhibitors. So Elizabeth, can you share your how and why and a little bit more about your organization?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Auer. I'm the executive director of and a programmer and presenter at Appalachian State University in Boone, North Carolina. I have been attending APAP for over 20 years, even with COVID times. My first one goes back to 2001. And I just want you to know that APAP is such an exciting, thrilling time within the field. And one of the best parts is the exhibit hall. I will tell you this, though, it is still intimidating after 20 years, walking into that space as a presenter where you know that everyone has their eyes on you and they want to sell and they're excited about their product and we're excited about it too. There's a lot of prep work that goes in on the presenter's side as well. For me, I am strategizing who I'm meeting with, whether I'm trying to confirm the artists that I have on the upcoming season, agencies that I have worked with in the past and that I have a potential project coming up. That is me specifically. There are other presenters who go in that are what I call window shopping, which is just another tactic and way of doing it. They're going from booth to booth to learn and explore. I book my time very, very tight in there. One of the things that I've appreciated as a presenter are the agents that use Calendly to be able to schedule. I love talking to the people to set things up, but many times you're emailing and it can go back and forth. With Calendly, you're presenting the times to people on when you're available. I have my own strategy that I use to go to the 3 different floors. And so I may have very specific windows that I want. I may book my time in 15-minute windows. You may be holding 30 minutes as an agent or an artist within that time, just recognizing the timing that each presenter coming in may only have 10 minutes, 15 minutes for that conversation. So I really try and use that time efficiently. And I am one of those presenters that brings a number of different staff members along with me, whether it be a box office person, it may be development, it may be board members, it may be the marketing director. And it's really making sure that as an agent or an artist, you recognize who the person is that you're speaking with. They may not have the booking potential, but they're trying to get some additional information and they are sharing that with the person who is making the programmatic decisions. It's been said before, and I can't stress this enough, that it is the long game. It takes more than 1 year to get people's attention, but don't worry, we see you. We see all the brand new boots that are coming in, but sometimes it takes 2 or 3 years, but it's always in the back of our mind. And if you kind of go in with that first year, and didn't have the success you're looking for, it takes coming back multiple years to say, oh, you know what, that makes sense to look into. And the other point to stress is what everyone has said so far is doing that homework ahead of time about who you're meeting with. Really looking at 2 or 3 projects that you think would work great for their venue. That is best to focus on instead of an entire roster.
Thank you all. That's a really chock full of information and tips and insights. And I wonder if there are any other kind of insider learnings that you've discovered over your many years of being in this field that you want to pass on. If you didn't have a chance to do that, I want to invite you all to do that now. I also wonder about the whole meeting time thing. Should people plan on doing meetings? Is it okay? Is it not okay? If you're new to the exhibit hall, what makes sense? So I'll just open it up for the panel to weigh in there. So feel free. Anybody want to comment?
I like to schedule meetings, especially with people that I have not met before. Because we all know this is a relationship-driven business. And I like to have that initial meeting with someone face-to-face rather than on a phone call. So I'm a big believer in that because I know my colleagues in Wisconsin that I can pick up and call to talk to about a project. They know who I am. We've known each other for a very long time, but there's something about using that the exhibit hall face-to-face opportunity to really meet someone new. I also make a point not to fill my schedule with meetings, because I love to have that discovery time. People that, will walk by or come to a showcase that are excited about talking with one of us about the artist, they need to feel like they're welcome and being seen, rather than feel like they have to wait in line to talk to one of us. And that's really important with the philosophy that we operate on. The other key, Jennifer and I have learned, the last day of hall closes at 6 o'clock is the loadout. We literally got pretty much kicked out of the hall last year because we had people that were trying to do their final rush through the hall, and we were still meeting with people at 6:15 and 6:30. So there's something to be said about staying for the long haul. It's we've had some great conversations as the hall is closing.
Thanks for that, Laurel. I know when I was a presenter, I used Monday really, really judiciously and got a lot of work done.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think,
sorry, go ahead, Sarah.
oh, just to echo that, I think scheduling yourself for about 80% full, or maybe at 75, but to allow times for walk-ups, for, if you meet people on Friday, trying to add them into the schedule, and to give yourself a little bit of breathing room and for new things. Because we'll schedule a good share of meetings, but we do have people walk up as well who get curious. And I like to schedule, well, I'm in a debate about if I schedule every 30 minutes, because most meetings take somewhere between 15 and maybe 20 minutes. So I've liked scheduling on the 30, and then I have some sort of built-in time to catch walk-ups. Or if something goes for 25 minutes, it's not a crisis.
Yeah, like what Laurel said about leaving that time for discovery too. It's just not only for discovery, but also scheduling time in for yourself. I think it's the expo hall can be very, very intimidating, and the conference as a whole can be very intimidating. And, there can be this pressure. I used to work for a larger agency, and when I worked for these larger agencies, I maybe had like 60 to 70 meetings over the course of those 5 days, from breakfast meetings, lunch meetings, bar meetings, second bar meeting, second dinner meeting. And now that I'm on my own and it really is just me, it's like, okay, I do need to take time for myself, and really building that time in as well. Otherwise, you're just not going to be at your best or effective, and you do want to be putting your best foot forward, especially meeting those new people, because that's one of the big reasons I enjoy going to the conference, is to meet new people and develop those new relationships. Like Laurel said, the folks they're always going to pick up your phone calls, right? It's extending and expanding the network. That is really what makes the conferences such a valuable opportunity.
As a presenter, I've always really appreciated the professionalism in the exhibit hall, that the standards that are upheld to by the exhibitors, that you're not being attacked. Again, as a presenter, when you're walking down that hallway and you have everyone trying to get your attention, it is it can be very intimidating. And so just that friendly face, and I have to give a shout out to Laurel and Jenny for their chocolate that they have that keep me fueled throughout the conference. I always appreciate that. But and I think a lot of that is just the respect and being respectful of the people's times as they're coming through, and there's one conversation happening at a time. And as a presenter, I'm not coming in early. I'm not trying not to barge into someone's booth if I have a quick question. That's where you can always follow up. I mean, really, that exhibit hall is a jumping off point for many conversations. You don't have to, it's not about solidifying the deals. Sometimes it is just that first time of that face-to-face and getting that recognition into the hall. And so, the other key thing that I think is really important to recognize in terms of what's happening for presenters, some people are still trying to look at performances for 3 months out. Others are looking at 2 to 3 years out. So everyone is working on different timelines. Part of that is that that homework that you're doing a bit ahead of time, or if you're meeting somebody new, getting their information, whether it's a business card, just writing down who it is that you met with. That follow-up afterwards is really a key important time, because there's so much on everybody's part. We're being inundated with names and titles and prospective programming and prospective new venues as well, that again, it's that really that jumping off point that continues for the next few months afterwards.
Wonderful. So thanks for all of that. I think we have a few more minutes, but I have gotten a question that I think I want to pose to the panel, because I know a lot of new folks might be self-represented artists, or new artists who are not new artists, but artists who are new to APAP, that are debating on whether they should hold a booth or they should do a showcase, or just what would make sense when you're in that position. And I wonder if any of you have thoughts about that or perspectives about that you might want to lift up and share.
We got this question. I'm sorry. We got this question a lot with the Midwest conference that was just held, with artists asking, okay, I'd really like to showcase, but I'm not sure I want a booth in the hall. And Jennifer put it into such beautiful terms. She said, why would you do a showcase, which is in essence a commercial for your program, but not have a storefront? So if you're showcasing and you don't have a space, where will people be able to connect with you after your showcase to talk further? And I thought that was a beautiful analogy.
Nice. That's a great one.
As a presenter, I recognize the financial constraints that one may be under having those booths. If this is your first year, maybe that first year you're going and attending and you're seeing what it's like. I mean, I've been doing this for 25 years, and when I'll go to a new conference I've never been to before, I spend a lot of time that first year just looking and learning and seeing to figure out how it works, and then can fully jump in that next year. So that might be a suggestion to it. As a presenter, when I'm setting up meetings, I'm meeting with those who have booths first, though. That maybe not everyone is that same way, but I appreciate the commitment that goes into it. There's a lot of work that happens behind the scenes and throughout the year out of APAP. And so I want to first honor those who are committed to the full conference attendance. But again, if finance is one of the biggest concern, maybe especially in that first year, just learning how it operates first before jumping in fully.
Awesome. Thanks. So I'm already getting a lot of questions, and then so I think that might be a good time to shift to that and keep the panel around, because I think that they'll probably have some insights and things to weigh in on. So thank you. Thanks to all four of you. You're such a gift to the field and to your colleagues, and we really appreciate you sharing your insights and your wisdom with the folks that are here. So I'm going to turn it over to Neo, and I think she's going to facilitate Q&A, and I can we'll be answering some of the questions that have been sent or are in the chat. So Neo.
Thank you, Krista. Let's start with a question from Chris Getzler. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. The question in the chat is, can someone speak to the experience of the 3 floors of exhibiting versus the single large marketplace? I will just share that that is our layout due to the space constraints of the venue that we've been in for many years at the Hilton. And I'm actually going to come back to our panelists to ask if they would share their thoughts on the experience of the 3 floors of exhibiting. I would say each floor maybe has a bit of a different feel. I'll ask you all to share your experiences.
Yeah, so we've been in the same booth location for many years, which is part of my security. But I think it doesn't feel to me that different than a conference where everyone's in the same hall. I do when I'm making appointments or telling people about where my booth is, I always say, you know, it's this number in Rhinelander. And I know some presenters will try to be like, okay, my Saturday is going to be a Rhinelander day, and then I'm going to do Americas on this day. They're not so far, but it does take time to sort of hop up and down. So just as you're identifying yourself, I always include that floor number. That's the only thing that feels different for me. I think for presenters, there's just more going around. And then I did get quite lost on the 3rd floor, but people helped me.
Thank you, Sarah. Leah or Laurel, Elizabeth, anything to add?
I mean, I think it's interesting, and I guess it took me a little while to realize that that each of the floors, I don't know if this is just the agents working together. Each of the floors have a very particular identity, and sometimes agents who represent similar projects might on purpose put themselves in the same booths every year so that it is, again, like it's expectations, right? And so if you go more than 1 year, you're like, oh, that's the row where all the classical, you know, like the people who represent small classical projects are, or that's where all of like a lot of the children's theater is, or that's where, you know, maybe some of the bigger agencies are. So it's been interesting to just see like the different personalities of each floor, and that actually it's helpful for both the agents and the presenters, because they know, okay, well, this is where I go for this is where I go for that. So just knowing where things are.
I think it kind of breaks it up into bite-sized pieces too, so it's not just one huge area. So yeah.
Thank you.
Like Sarah, we like to have the same booth space and the same area because that's where people know to come and find us.
Yeah, as a presenter, I hate it when the agents move. I'm like, where are you? So you get really used to finding them in the same spot. So
yeah, like the both agencies that I used to work for were on Americas 2. And so that was the hall that I knew. So when I opened up my own agency, it was like, well, where am I going to go? I was like, well, Americas 2, of course. So I'm working with that. And again, this will be my second APAP in person with my own agency. And I did get the same booth that I got last year because just having that familiarity is helpful.
And I think that's one of the main reasons why people want to be in the same area. It's not that one floor is better than the other, It's really just that consistency of knowing what you're coming into and that people can find you each year. So one of the questions about that 3rd floor, as the other spaces run out, no, there's absolutely nothing. And actually, I feel like in Rhinelander, they're using that space even better as more of a meeting space, where I was actually taking some people where it's okay, we don't want to stand at the booth. Let's go over and sit at this table. So I feel that actually, even post-COVID, has become much more effective and much more useful as a place to meet.
Thank you. Next question.
Thank you. I don't know if anybody can hear me, but thanks for that answering. That was my question, and I appreciate that very much. Because I've been conferencing a long time, but it's my first time coming to APAP, and the 3 floors sort of kind of threw me for a loop, especially when selecting my exhibit booth. So I just wanted to know, just generally, what do the 3 floors look like? And I was noticing that too. Agents seem to kind of congregate together, and the second floor seemed to kind of have similar tastes, and then the third floor was kind of wide open at the time that I was booking my booth. So I'd seem like, don't go to floor 3. So there's a ghost up there or something. I wasn't sure what was going on with floor 3, but it's making more sense. So I appreciate all the help now. Thanks so much.
If that ghost has chocolate, you'll get presenters there. Have no fear.
Thank you. Another question we have is from an artist that's new to the mix. Wants to know what you recommend as a person that's new to APAP. Do you recommend showcasing for your first year or purchasing a booth for your first year? And if that person is in the room, I'm sorry, this got to me not directly, so I don't know your name. If there's anything more you'd like to add to that question, please do.
I think that might have been Brenda.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me. Hi, I just turned my microphone on. Yeah, no, I'm just curious about that balance. I mean, like I think I mentioned in the message, I've done a lot of performing and touring, but I've always been part of something else. So I'm looking at doing my own work now, which is very different. And so I'm curious as to a couple of things. Number one, do people do a booth and performances? Which I think that question was answered a little bit earlier, which I really appreciate. And then I was wondering about the third floor, and you've addressed that. And I'm thinking about chocolate and cookies. Is that good? And then the third part of it was just about, I was just thinking in terms of, since I really am new to this end of this, is how much outreach do people do ahead of time, like sending samples and sending pictures, and so that when you get there, somebody actually maybe makes an effort to come to where your booth or your presentation or your showcase. Done. So any advice? I'll listen.
This is where doing your homework in advance is almost required. Never blindly import the attendee list and send your message out to everyone on that list. Go through the list and pull out the agents and managers, and then take the list and pull out the presenters, but send your messaging to the presenters that match your show or your genre. We're already getting inundated with messaging for some of the different other fall conferences, and the clean your list. Never blindly import, because that's one of the reasons why people will opt out of sharing their email address. And I know college presenters that come to APAP that were getting 200 to 300 messages a day, and it was shutting down. It was shutting down the servers. So if you take nothing away from what Laurel says, please never blindly import an attendee list. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Oh, and there was one other one earlier on. I know there's the affinity groups. All right, a lot of the work that I have done is comedy around the environment and music. So that's kind of what the ones I'm doing. Is there an environmental or a green affinity group that is part of the conference at this point? Last question. I will now be quiet.
Thanks for that, Brenda. The affinity groups have typically been by role and identity, but we have had those that are interested in a particular topic, whether it's international or climate change or something else. So thanks for bringing that up. I think that the climate emergency is real and people want to be able to gather. So we will look to making space for that to happen. So thanks for that.
If I could add one more part from the presenter perspective on it. There's the for us, we're getting requests from booths, and I can't stress exactly what they just said about making sure you're targeting the correct people. If you're trying to send a notification to another agent, I had a lot of agents who were like, do you get, I got 50 emails. I was like, in the last hour, they're like, today, I was like, oh, let me show you my inbox. Because we're also getting showcase information as well, and requests for other meetings and all that's going on. I would suggest, and I mean, once I start getting APAP emails, I create a folder. Just recognize you may send something, I don't mean now, it's a little bit early, but say in October, you're getting that attention beforehand. For me, it's very important as a presenter. One, I can tell you mailings do no good to me, especially when people are sending them right at Christmas break, when I'm in a university, and a lot of other presenters that you might be shut down between that Christmas and New Year's and you come back. I'm just inundated with a lot of mail. It's not even recyclable mail, speaking of environmental issues. So in a way, like, if it's something that I could even recycle, but when it's that printed shiny ink, it looks beautiful, but it goes in landfill, and that's just super, super frustrating. I would rather have emails that I can file and sort through. So what Sarah was talking about, is find us in Rhinelander 304, things like that, where it's sortable in the emails. I may not look at it now, but I'm going to file it to when I'm looking through to set my different meetings at APAP for the exhibit times, for the showcase times. So just being very respectful that there's a lot of information that comes through, but if you're trying to push it a week before the conference, it's not going to be looked at. You really have to plan ahead for that.
And I would say, as personal as you can be in your invites, both to showcase, both to have a meeting at the booth or to drop by, particularly if you've been someone who's been performing in one context and now you're making a change. So maybe you're representing yourself, maybe you have a new project, but think about those relationships you already have. If you've been at a venue before, or if you've been at a nearby venue, if you've got like 5 people who are big advocates of your work, ask them, say, who should I be talking with? Who should I be inviting? And then if somebody says, oh, you have to talk to my friend Sarah, when you write that friend Sarah, you can say, this person recommended I reach out to you because of your focus on new work, or this kind of dance, or this work that's looking to use college students in creating work. So you can get to the heart of why this is personally relevant to that venue.
Got it. That helps a lot. Thank you very much.
I have a question from Lauren Garnet. If you have an artist on your roster, they only need an artist badge to participate. Nothing else is required, and that person can be in your booth with you. Let's see. I got a couple of questions about the expo hall hours. So I referenced early morning hours on Sunday and Monday, and during that time, booths aren't required to be staffed. And the reason is we've added those hours just to maximize the opportunity for meetings in the booth. And for some, that extra time is really important and useful. And for others, not as much, because maybe they've showcased the night before or they have other meetings happening. So we've just added some additional time in the booth to create some more flexibility for taking meetings. Let's see. So from Kristen Lelm, I was wondering if artists are allowed to put up and pull up banners outside of their showcase rooms for marketing. So part of this is that our APAP showcases are independent. Some are happening within the Hilton, and others are happening throughout many venues in New York City. At the Hilton, in the showcasing rooms, there are banners that can be popped up in the hallways outside of rooms, but that's largely directed by the showcase producers that are managing those specific rooms. And just to share, let's see. If 2 floors of the expo hall are sold out, is the 3rd floor, which right now is Rhinelander, any good? And the question is that where agencies go to die? No, Rhinelander is not where agencies go to die. And I think Elizabeth mentioned this earlier. Rhinelander is the third floor. It's actually the first floor. This is the entrance to the expo hall, and where we have networking space now, which is activated throughout the conference with sessions, or I believe as Laura mentioned, a place where you could also have a meeting. So there is plenty of foot traffic on that floor as well. And I think there are people that in the same way have been in America's Hall 2 and 1 for many years, have the same location that they go to every year in Rhinelander. I'll also add that we have a reward tier system for continued years of exhibiting. So if you've been exhibiting with APAP for more than 25 years, you had access to purchase your booth before anyone else could purchase your booth, which allows you to kind of be in the same location year after year. And we have 4 tiers, and that is how those booth spaces sell out rather quickly. But as I mentioned, there is inventory still available on the Rhinelander floor. Krista, you have a question from Brenda, but maybe we answered this already. Do presenters go to other booths?
Yeah, I think maybe there's some clarity there. I think what you might be asking is, with all of the folks that are setting up meetings, is their time pretty much commandeered by those meetings, and do they actually go to other booths? I think that might be the source of that question. And I wonder if anybody wants to comment on that. It sounds like all of you have talked about leaving time for discovery. And not everyone does that, but a lot of people do, particularly post-pandemic, because a lot of people have moved. A lot of agencies have gone away and become new ones. A lot of new programmers are in positions that they weren't in before the pandemic. So it is the time to rediscover or discover changes that have happened in the field. So that's just, things that we hear. But does anybody else from the panel want to comment on that?
Yeah, that was my question. Just that simply, I can imagine people are so busy from what you've been talking about and about how many people are there and making appointments. I was wondering, is there interaction?
Another question from the floor is.
Oh, can I throw out one?
Sure.
I know this is focused on exhibiting, which is a big part of the conference. But I also find we have really valuable conversations at professional development, at other, some of the social or community groups. And sometimes I think, especially if you're in your first year in those early years, you might be having even more connections there. And, and that'll drive more meetings later on. So that those aren't sales opportunities, but those are a good place to get to know other folks, and then can set up, a meeting from there during those exit times.
Thank you. I think, Sarah, you posed this question in the chat. Booth sharing is permitted between 2 members. One member does have primary listing and the booth would be listed under that primary company in our booth listing in our swap card platform and also on the booth signage, but booth sharing is permitted. And that I think is a newer option that we just implemented last year for the first time.
I want to underscore this set of questions about what happens oftentimes with artists at conference who are also looking at this as an opportunity to meet with or explore representation at conference. And I know that happens a lot. And, I think Leah already addressed this, that March is a much better time to reach out to agencies for representation. We've heard that from a number of our agent manager colleagues, that this is not the time to go and ask and explore representation when this is such an important and busy time for those that are in their business cycle. So they won't be able to give you the kind of attention and time that maybe they want to, or that you need to be able to really share more about what you do and why there might be a match. So just going to underscore that this is a good opportunity for you to kind of get the lay of the land, and also take advantage of what both Sarahs have said about exploring the other opportunities at conference to interact and meet your colleagues, whether they're managers or agents, and see showcases where maybe your work is similar, and learn a little bit more about who is managing them, or who actually is doing a lot of family programming, or who's doing dance. That's a great way to get a lot of intel. So.
Yeah, and kind of similarly, just to expand on it, because I'm realizing after reading my text, it seems a little short. So let me just expand on that a little bit. Is that, similarly to the way that us agents have to prepare to, when we approach presenters, right? And we have to prepare as, okay, what do they tend to book? Similarly, just like Krista just said, an artist, when you're approaching agents, look at what they represent and how you might be a fit for their roster. But also knowing, just like we as agents need to be aware as to what the cycle is for each presenter. What is their booking cycle? Are they ones that book, a year and a half out, 2 years out? Do they do rolling bookings? Do they book like maybe 3 months out? It's really great for artists to know what an agent cycle is. And, for us, we do spend a lot of our time prepping for APAP, and to be able to do what we do at APAP. Then we have our follow-up time, and March hopefully is we have a little bit of breathing room to start really exploring what our roster might be for the next booking season and the booking cycle. So that gives us time also, if we are going to onboard a new artist, to prep everything with that artist prior to the subsequent fall conferences, which is when the booking cycle begins all over. So that's why March, April is a better time to reach out, even better than, because if you decide to reach out in July, by that time, we're already in our prep process for the fall conferences. So that's why the early spring is a good time for that.
With a bit of chatter going on about digital marketing and digital brochures between Lee and Elizabeth, would anyone like to add to that discussion or share how you've been using the digital marketing space?
I can tell you, I just moved to this organization 2 months ago after being at a previous university. And one of the things that's been very helpful to me is, as I've been transitioning from getting, mailing lists from one to another, and as I'm looking at new options of booking, both during the academic year and for a summer festival, when someone has included their brochure or their roster as a website addition, it's not their full website, but it may be a targeted thing. I've been saving those as bookmarks, so that way I now have a bookmark that just says agencies, so that way when it's like, okay, wait, Lee is here. And especially as they were talking about agents moving because of COVID and all these new agencies, trying to figure out which artist is with who now. I've created a number of, I just have a bookmark that says agencies, so that I can go to that site to pull up that information. I remember the days of APAP where you literally brought an extra suitcase to haul all this stuff home. And now if I come home with 4 papers, I love it. So just that ability to make it accessible, so that I can also do, as a presenter, I can be doing some research on my own ahead of time, so that if I'm going to meet with you, and if you're sending out an email that says, hey, can we meet? I can easily go and see what information you have, if this is something that makes sense for me or might make sense in the future. Because again, it's a long game, right? And somebody might not have a space now. That doesn't mean it's always no, but there's an option to maybe look at something in 2 seasons from now or 5 seasons from now. And that's where that information you'll hopefully constantly be updating that, versus a piece of paper that can be inaccurate by the time it's printed.
Like that, Elizabeth. The one piece that is standard for us is digital edition of our brochure is part of our email signature, and also our location of our booth is part of the email signature. And I use I use a calendar program like Calendly to set meetings. I have that link in my email signature. So, we just try and make it as easy as we can for our colleagues.
We do our printed brochure, and but everybody doesn't take it. So sometimes, but I like it as like something to talk through in the booth, and somebody can flip through it and get a sense of what the programming it is. And then also in our booth, we have little tabletop pop-up banners. We also have a banner we hang, but those pop-ups have been really nice because we can put those in our just checked luggage. And again, it's something visual that people aren't taking with us, but gives you a little bit of curb appeal, because you do want, if you have a booth, something that is going to draw people in and give folks a good idea of what kind of work you have.
Thank you, everyone. A question from Brenda. For artists without touring representation yet, how much booking information about price, tech requirements, promotional materials, connections, previous shows are needed in a brochure? Leah.
I'll take this one. So I think, honestly, less is more. A lot of that information you are going to be speaking to the folks that are interested in your show later on down the line. You putting in your tech requirements isn't going to sell your show. Yeah, like it's really thinking, okay, what is it? It is putting on your marketing hat, and what will sell the show? Yes, maybe notable previous shows will. Maybe you want to, if you have, like, one of my artists has a great quote from the LA Times. Of course, I'm putting that in the brochure, right? So it's figuring out what about your show is going to get your foot in the door, and especially if this is your first APAP. I really feel like some of my colleagues, their recommendations of going and seeing what it is, and something I still do. I go around. I take some time to go around the halls, the exhibit halls, see what other people's marketing materials look like, see what other people's booths look like, and I take pictures of them, and I take samples, and I have it's like, oh, I really like what this person did. And it's not, that's not anything bad that I'm doing, because of course it's my agency. It's going to have, all my materials have my stamp on it, but other people have really amazing ideas, and it's like, okay, that might work for me. So I think that going in with that mindset is going to be helpful, having your tech requirements and your promo materials and all of that on your website, that you might have, a QR code or a link on your brochure is a good idea.
Thanks.
Thanks. Are there any additional questions? And feel free to use the raise your hand feature if you'd like to share your question on screen. Okay. Are there any additional? Yeah, Yael. Oh, Yael, I think you're still muted. Please unmute yourself.
Hello, everybody, and I'm really happy to be here. I'm an artist. I'm independent, although I have this record label that releases my albums. But I wanted to ask, what chance do I have to get attention of presenters when, in case I don't have any show at the APAP? I am actually proposing to Up Next something. Maybe I will be in the Up Next that is socially involved. I don't know much about that. I spoke with some of your colleagues there, but this is not yet finished. So what is the chance? The question is, what is the, how can I approach these things? If I do my homework, I do contact people beforehand in October, November, but what is the chance that anybody will read my email and do a meeting and schedule a meeting with me, or do I have to just walk in?
Yeah, I can take some of this, and somebody said this before, and I think it's really true, is the other professional development sessions, the plenary sessions, all the other activities that are available at APAP, those conversations that are being had are a really great way to get to know other people, not in a selling, because I can tell you, if somebody I don't know comes to me as a presenter and says, I got this and I want to give you this pitch, I've been pitched to all day in 70 meetings, right? But I want to know you. I mean, I sat on a panel with an artist once. It was about, it was about how to get booked. I actually booked her off of the panel that I was on. I had no idea whether she could play or not, but she was brilliant, this brilliant speaker, right? It was that interaction that for me as a presenter, I said, I want to know more about it. And sometimes those happen. It's, it's that organic conversation that happens. There are a number of different topics that happen throughout with the professional development sessions. And if you have a piece that you're working on that focuses in something with one of those, it's not standing up and saying, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I'm creating this piece. But finding out who has a key interest and building that relationship. And again, I can't stress this enough. It really is about that long game, that you might meet somebody, you're sitting next to them at one of these sessions, and that sparks the conversation. And you can ask them, who do you know that you think I should approach? Because sometimes that secondary person who says, you might talk to so-and-so, that also works for those who aren't represented by an agency yet too. Once you get to know somebody and you say, hey, is there a natural connection that you see? Using those relationships to help create that connection is a really, really strong opportunity as well, beyond just feeling that you have to sell yourself, because you get very tired as well.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Wallace, hello.
Yes, hello. Thank you for taking my question. So that I can get to doing my research and things like that, when and how frequently will the attendee list be distributed? I know, like with Max, it was every few weeks. So will the same thing be the case for APAP, or how long we have to wait to get that information so we can act on it?
Yes. So we've started to share our attendee list. I think the first one in August, possibly, or late July. Initially, they were coming on a bi-weekly basis, acknowledging that everyone was ending their summer and participating in many regional conferences. We're now moving to a space where registered attendees will receive an attendee list weekly from now leading up to our conference in January. And I think we have an additional comment in the chat. One question that I'm trying to find.
It might have been me.
It was, thank you.
I got you.
Yeah, thank you.
And hey, Leah, what's up? I wanted to know about the value of, I'm a slashy, I wear a lot of hats, and so as a consultant, I'm just wondering, is there a value of being there present in the exhibit hall? I do equity, diversity, inclusion. There's marketers, there are PR folks, education, community. I'm like listing things now, so question mark endpoint.
I think Elizabeth actually commented here about seeing consultants in the booth. Elizabeth, do you want to look that up?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I mean, I know ACG always has a booth, and that's for if you're trying to find somebody to hire, and on both sides. But also, I think it's great because it's presenters, agents, managers, artists, everyone, for the services that you offer. they may not know about it otherwise. And that's a really good opportunity to then get to meet some of those people that they, you know, they then take your card and go, oh, hey, here's this person that I could utilize as I'm trying to expand my development, either with my team, within myself. I think it's a great idea, and I will be at your booth.
It also, to me, feels like it would make things easier for you because you'd have a central meeting spot. And then for folks you want to talk to, they can, maybe that you have a relationship with, or, you know, have been like, oh, someday we've got to have a conversation about this, can place you in with those other meetings. So it can feel more holistic and like part of that meeting time that's carved out. I mean, I think there are definitely like, especially on like Monday, people can get a little glazed look and just start walking up to any booth. And we definitely had the experience where someone was just like, circus, do you got any circus? And we were like, no. They're like, I gotta find some circus. It was like, okay, good luck. So like, yeah, people are gonna come up and being like, what's your biggest act? And you'll be like, here's where I'm coming from. And then they'll leave and that'll be fine. But I think it is like, it'll be a place to be able to find you and like include you in the mix of work that's part of the industry in a really like present way.
Yeah, and I wanted to add to hi, because you know, when I first saw your question, I was like, I don't know how effective that'll be, but it could be, you know, but it seems like more and more there are people who are bringing their development person, they are bringing their marketing person, and they're bringing them for professional development. And even, you know, thinking about how many, you know, when we get the list, right? And it's like agent, presenter, service organizations, right? And even if there could be, so this does seem to be a burgeoning thing. And like, how can all those service organizations strategically place themselves together in, you know, wherever in the halls, so that people who are looking for that can find it easily? Because I wonder, you know, it just seems like those might be folks that people might go to APAP not knowing they need those folks, and then they go to a PD and they're like, oh, I really need to talk to somebody who can help me with this DI, you know, what is that people are talking about now? DEI what? So like even working together with APAP to have a specific space for those folks seems like it might be something to explore.
Absolutely. And, you know, along those lines, and it's a great idea. So thank you for that. We're going to explore that. We also have information sessions and consultations that are part of conference. And so that's another way, while you're thinking about having a booth, if you are a service organization, a consultant, and you want to have office hours right at your booth, as Laurel talked about, and that's kind of your office, there are also opportunities that we're going to add where people can hold info sessions and consultations outside of that. So that's another way for folks that maybe are not the programmer to be able to interact and find the people that would best benefit from their wisdom and their experience. So all good stuff.
Thank you, everyone. We'll take one final question from Lauren.
Hi, Gardner. Thanks. And I'm sorry, I put this on the board, so I'm sorry if I missed it when I stepped away for a snack. I just wanted to confirm if the booth needed to be staffed the entire afternoon, all 3 days, because I think I might be doing a showcase during one of those afternoons. Like it will maybe morning to afternoon, like it might sneak in there.
Yes, the booth does need to be staffed outside of those hours that I noted, and we'll share that. And this information is on our website, and we'll pop the link into the chat as well. There are some hours Sunday and Monday morning from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. I think 9:15 on Monday, where the booth is not required to be staffed. And also Monday afternoon, I think from 4 to 6 p.m., you're not required to staff your booth at that time as well.
Otherwise it does.
Otherwise, yes. It is
okay. So it's just me for my agency. And then if my artists are at the showcase, like can I throw my mother-in-law in there, get her a bat? No, I'm really serious. Like, how would I do that? She's a Broadway person. Should be fine.
You can have a colleague in your booth. They would need to be registered as a booth attendee, but you can have a colleague register.
But so
in
then
your booth.
if they're registered with a booth badge, then they don't need to register on their own separately.
That is correct. They would
I
register.
just have them a badge.
Yes.
Okay. And that's the same for the artists. They don't have to, you said this already, but I'm so confused with this. They don't have to register on their own. I get them an artist badge and they're good.
That is correct. They would need to be need to be under your membership roster.
Right.
And then they would just need to be registered as an artist using that badge.
All right. Sue, I might have to email you about that. Thank you.
And I think we'll take one more question I saw in the chat from Lolita. Lolita, would you like to mention that? And I think maybe Leah has answered it a bit.
Hi, how is everyone? Yes, someone just answered and I forgot. I am signed up for the Showcasing 101. So my question probably would be answered at that time.
Great.
Unless somebody wants to do it quickly, but that's okay.
Thank you for that plug.
Thank you. Is there anything quickly anyone wants to add to that?
So the question was about, for an agent or somebody who has multiple artists on a roster, how do you select who's going to showcase? And we really look at like who's going to be successful. And that means weighing the cost of the possible showcase with what we think the attendance is going to be, what we think will do well in a showcase environment. Music does great. We've had some theater shows that don't require a lot of setup that have also done well, but we also know some of our bigger work it's not right for the showcase environment. We've participated in a few showcases that have also had pitches sort of between acts while folks are setting up. That's not true of every showcase room, but that's been another way for us to shine a spotlight on some of those productions that are international and, or just can't come over for whatever reason to do the showcase.
Thank you, Sarah. And JG, can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, next steps in becoming an exhibitor. You must be an APAP member, so please join. There are still discounts available for new members, and many types of memberships are available. We also have group registration as an option for the conference. Register and then purchase your booth. As I mentioned, booths remain available on the Rhinelander floor. Book your travel and hotel at the New York Hilton Midtown, which is our host hotel. Our conference rate is $229 for APAP attendees. Read the detailed exhibitor information and FAQs on our website. And we'll pop that link in the chat as well. Complete booth badge registration. So this would be for anyone in your booth that you've purchased a booth badge for. You provide their name during the registration part, but that colleague needs to go in and complete their registration so that we can capture all of their demographic information, and so that everyone will be able to see them on the attendee list. When you receive it, review the GES exhibitor kit and order any on-site services you might need for your booth. Remember to make shipping arrangements with GES to the hotel, because the New York Hilton is a union property. So that we do have to follow those guidelines in terms of setting up your booth and shipping. And then join us for our upcoming Road to APAP sessions. I believe my colleague has dropped in the chat that we have Showcasing 101 next Wednesday, October 11th, also at 2 p.m. And some other Road to APAP sessions coming up. Krista, is there something you'd like to add?
Yeah, sure. Next Thursday, we have a special session of APAP Unpacked, Musicians Guide to Conference Success, led by Grammy Award winner Clay Ross and Juno winner Jamie Stone. They are the co-founders of Compose Your Career, a program for musicians on successfully navigating a long-term career, and there are partners in that. It is not just for musicians, but it will have a musician's lens. So I encourage any artist on this call to RSVP for that, because it's going to be really great, and we'll amplify and talk about, just as an artist, how to best navigate and utilize your time at APAP. So just to plug there.
Thank you, Chris.
One more thing, sorry.
Yeah.
In terms of next week, and just part of our community building efforts, next Wednesday at, I believe, 3 o'clock is our LGBTQIA plus affinity group. So if that from 3 to 4:30. So all APAP members that identify with this affinity group are invited and welcome to be there. It's a great community building event. So you'll find more information on our website about RSVPing for that affinity group. So just wanted to make that plug for next week.
Thank you, Krista. And just one final note, I believe GES exhibitor kits will be going out next week, and that's when you can start to make arrangements for your booth needs. And JG, if you can make the chat available for anyone that wants to copy any of the dates or information we've listed there, please do. With that, I'm going to turn things over to our president and CEO, Lisa Richards-Toney.
Okay, thank you, Neil, and thank you, everybody. This has been great. What a nice vibe. APAP is big, right? It's a lot to do. It's a whole production, and it's a lot to consider. And I'm hopeful that today there was some demystifying, especially for those of you who it was a bit of a mystery, demystifying of the process, how to maneuver it. I also appreciate the acknowledgement of the challenge with paper, right? How and why the digital formats, QR codes, or whatever else we invent between now and January, because that's how digital goes. Why that is something to really consider, and it's not a no to paper, but it's about really being intentional when you're going to choose to use it. It was really good to see you all on screen. I know never everybody could get on screen, but for those of you, it was helpful. I noticed you co-signing onto your colleagues' comments. That helps, right? It helps with the confidence to know that you're in the right place, you're doing it right, this is good, you're gonna get it, we're gonna get it, and you're gonna be fine. So that was really good. I also just wanted to lift up the comment about we're more than the success of our sale. We're more than the transaction, and business begins with a relationship, as we all know. And those relationships can be ignited, not just in the exhibit hall, but all throughout the conference. So do that. Now get your booth now. Don't misunderstand me, because you need an office from which to do your business, but really participating in everything that we have to offer, and using it as a way to get to know people, so that when you are in the business mode, it's a lot easier. And while we want to manage those expectations, we have a lot of new folks this year. We had a lot of new folks last year. We had 30% of our attendees were brand new last year. That's a lot of people new to APAP. So that message around managing expectations and what does it mean to be in the long haul is really important. And I hope it hasn't fallen on deaf ears. And if you really want to know more about that, like what does that really break down to? What does a year 1 or year 2 or year 3 look like? We're more than happy to kind of go through that or point you to some folks who have good stories for that. So this on-ramp to APAP, this is number 2. We've got another one, as Krista noted, coming up next week. I hope you all will attend, and I hope that you felt like you got out of this what you needed to. And you are welcome. Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for being here, and thank you to our wonderful panel for their time and energy. Really appreciate you being here. And if you have any questions, you know where to find us. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.